In this tutorial, I'm going to go over a couple of our preferences. These are very commonly used by our customers. So we have rate definition and benchmark rate. These are the two that I'll be covering. These are really critical in how you think about the analysis that you're running. So for rate definition, we have two settings here, DAT defined or company defined. This is really referring to spot loads, how we code loads as spot or contract. So DAT has a algorithm that you can use to flag loads as spot. And the algorithm is spelled out here in the description, but in short, it is any lane rate at the 5-digit zip code level that has run 4 days. It's less than 4 days ever. And when we receive your data, it's important to note that every time we receive a contribution file from you, we retest that. But that's important because if you send us a file and it's the first week you've run a lane, we might just pick up on 1 day and flag that as spot while you think it's contract. So after you send us another week, we will recognize that now it's repeating more than 4 days, and we'll go back and flag the old loads as contract. So be aware of that. It should be a kind of an edge case thing. And then we also have your company defined spot flag. So this is in your contribution file. You're telling us which loads are spot and which loads are contract, and you have the ability to use that setting as well. One thing that I'll point out is our DAT defined, the results are a bit more. We flag more loads as spot. So if you look here at the all contributors bar chart is at 15%. And this is going back to 2016, so it's a long view. If I flip that to company defined, you'll see that drop down to 7%. So the difference there is probably routing guide leakage. It's published rates in your TMS system that you consider contract, but we're flagging them as spot because they've reoccurred less than 4 days. So be aware of that difference. And one of the reasons why many of our customers like to use the DAT defined is it's a like for like comparison, whereas every company has unique different definitions of what is spot and what is contract, especially in this world where some companies are using API connections and index-based spot pricing, that sort of thing. So let me talk about how this impacts the views that you see in the dashboard. So over here to the left, this is all rates in the bar chart, and we're reporting the position to benchmark trend, how your rates on aggregate compare to our benchmark. Right now, using we're using company defined. It's comparing spot loads to a spot benchmark and contract to contract based on this setting. So you're going to get a different result when you change to our setting. So you'll see some slight movement. This went down a little bit more when I made that change. Another thing to be aware of is down here, it's going to change the number of loads that are in the spot portion of the bar chart and also in the contract. So those are things to be aware of. Also, the percentage, we have a percent of spot loads trend line here. I would play around with these two definitions and learn a little bit about your freight and analyze it that way. While I'm on the topic, also there is a spot filter down here on the right. So this is filtering spot loads out or contract loads out. And the gear symbol here is signaling how you have the rate definition set. So we're saying the rate definition is set as DAT defined versus company defined just below it, but you can filter by either. Last thing I'll touch on is benchmark rate. The default when you open the application is using combined. That's how I explained here. Spot loads are compared to a spot benchmark and contract to contract. You can compare all loads to a spot benchmark. And so that changes how the whole bar chart is calculated. Now, this one doesn't really change. All spot loads are compared to a spot benchmark. But now this is interesting. Now you're comparing your contract rates to a spot benchmark. And you can start to use that for some analysis. In a soft market, you might want to find lanes where you're running contract and spots cheaper. Maybe you have an opportunity to make some trade-offs. And same thing, contract, in a tight market, you would want to find those spot loads that are cheaper on contract benchmark rates. I hope this is helpful. Thank you.